In Kyoto, where tradition meets technology, lived a young man named Haruki. At 25, he was sharp, articulate, and successful. He worked at a top tech firm, spoke at conferences, and was admired by many. Since childhood, brilliance had defined him. Top of his class, hired straight out of university. He had his life mapped out with precision. His parents, both scholars, were proud. Haruki will go far, they'd say. But success, like a delicate sculpture, can begin to crack silently. Lately, Haruki felt a restlessness he couldn't name. Meetings blurred, emails piled up, and tasks that once excited him now drained him. Then came his performance review. He expected praise. Instead, his manager said, "You seem distracted. Your work lacks clarity." The words stung. For the first time, Haruki wasn't the golden boy. Even his parents noticed the change. "Maybe you need to refocus," his father said gently. But Haruki didn't know how. One weekend, overwhelmed, he took a train to the outskirts of Kyoto, a place from his childhood. There were bamboo groves, quiet trails, and space to breathe. He walked without headphones, phone tucked away. At sunset, he sat by a forgotten shrine. That's when he noticed an elderly man in simple robes, sweeping leaves calmly. "You seem distant," the man said kindly. Haruki hesitated. "Just tired." The man swept a few more leaves, then sat on a nearby stone. "What troubles your mind?" Haruki sighed. "I've always done well. But lately my mind won't stay still. Thoughts scatter. I can't focus." The monk smiled. "Ah, the storm." "Storm?" "Our thoughts are like wind," the monk said. "Sometimes a breeze, sometimes a typhoon. The more you fight them, the stronger they become." "But I have deadlines," Haruki replied. "And yet your mind is already lost," the monk said. "Not from laziness, but from lack of stillness." Curious, Haruki watched as the monk took out a ceramic bowl, poured water in, and stirred in some dirt. The water turned cloudy. "This is your mind," he said. Then he set the bowl down. Minutes passed. The dirt settled. The water cleared. "This is your mind when left undisturbed." Haruki leaned in. "Each morning, sit and breathe. Watch your thoughts. Don't chase them. Bring your focus back to your breath. That is how you calm the storm, not with force, but with presence." "I thought strength meant powering through," Haruki said. "True strength," the monk replied, "lies in stillness. A tree stands tall, not because of height, but because of deep roots." Before parting, the monk added, "You are not your productivity, Haruki. Learn to be still, and your strength will return." Then he bowed and disappeared into the forest. Haruki returned home changed. The next morning, before checking emails or sipping coffee, he sat cross-legged on the floor. Eyes closed, breathing. At first it was hard. Thoughts flooded in. But he didn't fight them. He simply observed. 10 minutes became 20, then 30. Weeks passed. Slowly, Haruki found his clarity again. He worked with calm precision. He listened better. He created more freely. At his next review, his manager smiled. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." But the real reward wasn't praise. It was presence. Years later, Haruki left the corporate world. He started a mindfulness tech company. He wrote a book. Still Mind, Strong Life. At conferences, he'd end his talks with the story of a monk and a bowl of water. And in Kyoto, they still speak of a young man who lost his focus and found himself instead. Moral of the story. The story of Haruki is a powerful reminder that success is not only measured by outward achievements, but also by the state of our inner world. In a fast-paced society driven by deadlines, accomplishments, and constant stimulation, it's easy to lose sight of our mental and emotional balance. Haruki's journey illustrates that even the most intelligent, capable individuals can feel lost when they become disconnected from themselves. Haruki, once a shining star of the corporate world, found himself struggling, not due to a lack of skill or knowledge, but because his mind was overwhelmed with noise. He couldn't focus, not because he was lazy or undisciplined, but because he had never been taught how to be still. This is a truth many people face. In our pursuit of excellence, we often neglect our need for mental peace and clarity. We chase productivity, believing it defines our worth, and ignore the signs of mental fatigue and emotional disconnection. The turning point in Haruki's life came not from a new productivity tool or a corporate training, but from a quiet encounter with a monk in nature. This monk didn't offer complicated advice or grand solutions. He simply demonstrated the power of stillness through a bowl of cloudy water. The metaphor was simple, yet profound. Our minds, like stirred water, are often too cloudy to see clearly. But when we stop stirring, when we stop resisting our thoughts and allow ourselves to just be, clarity returns. From this, we learn that inner clarity and focus are not about doing more, but about being present. Meditation, mindfulness, and intentional breathing aren't mystical practices. They're tools to anchor ourselves in the moment and reset our scattered minds. The monk taught Haruki that observing thoughts without judgment and returning focus to the breath can gradually calm the mental storm. This presence of mind is what cultivates deep strength, not the strength of force, but the strength of awareness. Haruki's transformation also reveals that identity should not be tied solely to external achievements. When his performance dipped, he felt like he had failed, not just at work, but as a person. But through stillness, he learned that he is more than his productivity. He learned to value himself not just for what he does, but for who he is, someone capable of growth, reflection, and conscious living. The moral of Haruki's story is clear. To truly thrive, we must learn to slow down. Stillness is not weakness. It is where we find our greatest clarity and strength. By taking time each day to pause, breathe, and observe, we return to ourselves. We become more focused, more creative, and more at peace. In stillness, we don't lose time. We gain perspective. Ultimately, the story teaches us that amidst the noise of life, the answers we seek often emerge not from doing more, but from doing less, just enough to hear the quiet wisdom already within us.